Hey everybody, let me ask you a simple question. If you went to a gaming subreddit and you told that subreddit that the game is too easy, we need to nerf the overpowered stuff, we need to give the AI some cheats, and we need to add a hard mode. If you ever said that on any gaming subreddit, do you think that your average person would upvote that post and in fact agree with you? No, of course not. If you went to the Helldivers subreddit and you said the overpowered weapons need to be nerfed, they would attack you. If you went to the Total War subreddit and you said that the AI needs to cheat more and that the overpowered stuff needs to be nerfed, they would say, stop ruining my power fantasy. But I went to the Crusader Kings 3 subreddit, and I made this long post because I was feeling in a very ranty mood. I was very frustrated. I've been playing a lot of Crusader Kings 3 lately, and I'm frustrated with the single player because the AI just doesn't do anything anymore. It never really has, but in particular right now, it just never really does anything. And I made this long rant, and instead of getting downvoted, instead of getting a few people saying I'm an idiot and to stop ruining their power fantasy, instead it got a 90% upvote rate. Now, that does say something, and that's kind of why I'm trying to make this video, because what I'm going to try to do here, for people that don't play Crusader Kings, I'm going to try to explain what Crusader Kings is, okay? For people that do play Crusader Kings, I'm going to try to explain why my suggestions for trying to make the game harder are good, why my suggestions for things to nerf are good, and this is just going to overall, we're going to be talking about Crusader Kings, and we're going to be talking about why this game is too easy and why it needs to be harder. Now, before we go any further, I ran a simulation here. This is an 866 start. Now, for those of you guys who don't know Crusader Kings, there are different start dates. It's a historical feudal simulation game, I guess is the best way to put it. It's obviously still a video game, so don't think too much of it, right? So in this game, you will generally take over a count, a duke, a king, an emperor, landless character, and you'll try to make the biggest empire possible. The AI will, in some way, they'll try to revolt against you, they'll try to attack you, oppose you, they'll try to do something. So here we can see let's go to France. We can see the King of France, who's down here, probably on Crusade, has land, but he also has vassals. So here we see, this is the King of France, and he has all these different vassals under him, and the vassals can rebel and blah, 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 blah. Now, of course, over the lifetime of Crusader Kings 3, there's been issues. If the vassals try to rebel too much and try to keep you down too much, it might slow down a player, but it will absolutely ruin the AI, and you'll have no strong opponents to fight. If the AI doesn't do anything to slow you down, you might get a strong enemies to fight, strong empires to fight, but your game will get boring because nothing will ever actually impede you. As of right now, Crusader Kings 3 definitely has an issue where the vassals underneath you do enough to slow down a player, but do too much and basically render the AI incapable of combining empires. Now, to its benefit, I definitely do agree that Paradox, the studio behind this, has done a good idea. They've done one thing that I think was actually a smart decision. They decided to try to find a middle ground wherein some characters could roll the Conqueror trait. Now, on a random chance, and a very slim chance, you can roll the Conqueror trait. With this trait, vassals will generally not attack you. You'll get a lot of armies, you'll get legitimacy, you'll get men-at-arms. For those who don't play Crusader Kings 3, this means your realm will be very stable, and you'll be able to expand very easily and quickly. This will allow the AI to form large empires, which will then collapse. The problem right now is the AI doesn't try to play the game, it tries to roleplay. As you can see here, every character has personality traits. We can see the King of France is lazy, wrathful, and brave. The King of Bavaria is brave and gregarious. The King of Hungary is a zealot, humble, callous man. The Caliph is diligent, zealous, and ambitious. That would explain some things. At any rate, AI will generally act according to their character traits. Players will try to take character traits that are good, and generally try to take character traits that aren't self-inting them. There are definitely, as you might imagine, bad character traits. You probably don't want to be Shry. You probably don't want to be Craven, right? However, because the AI doesn't manage these traits and generally tries to roleplay their character, their realms fall apart constantly. In fact, we can see here, Russia's dad rolled the Conqueror trait, but Russia themselves now does not have the Conqueror trait. This means in red are all the people rebelling against them. Their entire realm is trying to murder him and get him off the throne. So despite the Empire of Russia forming, it's very quickly going to break apart. As we can look around the map, we can see there's not really a whole lot of AI that have done anything. Now, the Arabian Empire under the, I think these are the Hashemids, these people have managed to form a stable empire. The AI has managed to scale. Now your family, the game is played in a very family line kind of way, and you can slowly buff your family. The Arabian Empire is an administrative empire, and through that, they've managed to max out their bureaucracy, they've managed to max out their legitimacy, and they've managed to max out their kin. This means, on average, the characters within the Hashemite dynasty will have very good education, they'll all like each other, they'll not get debuffed from being old, they'll be very, very powerful. They even have warfare here, so each of them will be more capable in combat and have more capable knights beneath them. So this dynasty is large, in charge, and stable. Most AI will never reach this point. In fact, Al-Andalus out here actually owned the entirety of Spain under Islamic rule. For some reason, never managed to form Hispania. I think that's probably because of the struggle. Oh no, the Iberian struggle is still going on, my bad. Okay, so that explains that. But other large empires like Maghreb over here have completely died. The Saharan Empire, which... what the heck is going on over here? I'm not even going to ask about it. At any rate, the AI really hasn't managed to do anything. There's one singular AI, which starts already massively powerful because they start in control of Egypt, that has managed to do anything. All the other empires have done nothing. Now, if I'm playing this game, and I want to form the empire of all of Europe or something like that, I would generally want the AI to try to threaten me, to slow me down, to stop me. But instead, they won't. They won't do anything. They won't do anything at all to prevent me because they're too weak, they're too powerless. Let's compare for a second. The Arabian Empire would actually be maybe not a legitimate challenge to the player at this stage in the game, but they would be probably the strongest and only thing that could even slow down the player on the map. They're half as strong as they used to be. They used to have actually 10,000 Mubarazan. Now they only have 5,000. If we look around the map here, we can see East Francia only has, East Francia only has 1,200 men. The French have a mere 1,000 convoy. Like apparently the French are actually ran by the Normans. And by the way, I just want to say here, one thing that really irritates me is that developers put no time into things like Aquitaine. You're probably looking at Aquitaine and you're thinking, the hell is that? Well, to be honest, I don't know what it is either, because this is a made-up kingdom that lasted for like 10 years in real life. It's made up, it's fake, it doesn't exist. When I go to the de jure map mode, now this means of law. Lawfully, Aquitaine owns this land and France only owns this land. Does that make any sense to you? Of course not. It doesn't make any sense to me either. This means France under the AI will always split in two because it'll always try to give each of its sons a kingdom. So one of the sons will get France, one of the sons will get Aquitaine. It'll always split into two. Aquitaine shouldn't exist, and just it annoys me so much. But if we look around Europe, we can see even the strongest empires out here have so few men-at-arms, so few armies. Now, levies don't really matter, just don't look at that. But when we look around Europe, we can see that there's just so few men-at-arms in any of these kingdoms, and none of them could possibly ever actually pose a legitimate challenge to a player who's actually trying to play through this region. Now, when you try to conquer Europe and you try to have fun with it, maybe it's fun once. Maybe it's even fun trying to play through this game twice. But by the third time you start playing through the game and you don't see AIs just laying down and letting you kill it, you start getting a little bit bored. It's not fun to beat up an infirm old man, and that's realistically how the AI feels. If I was playing in this game, I would just quickly mop everything up and there would be no real threat, no real challenge. I would get bored of the game and I would move on with my life because it would just be, you know, frankly boring. And that's now going to this post. That's why I made this post. So let me read through it. Now I did make this a bit ranty, so I'll try to clarify my thoughts as I read through here. I'll try to make it so that, you know, this doesn't come off like just a rant, but this is effectively a rant. Okay. Before I say anything else, let me state, I know this game is balanced around hijinks. I know people want to play a wrong culture, wrong religion adventurer, and defeat an empire in one lifetime. That's extremely popular to do. I'm not suggesting anything be done to the base game. So within this post, I do actually suggest things are done to the base game. But I'm not trying to suggest, let's just make this game 20 billion times harder. I'm not just trying to say, let's make this game so hard that anyone new to Crusader Kings can't do anything. So that anyone new to Crusader King ends up like poor Poland here, just getting destroyed by all their neighbors. I'm not trying to suggest that, okay? I know it's been said 2,039 times, but I feel like unless it's stated every so often, nobody at Paradox is going to hear. How hard would it really be to add a hard mode, to do some balance updates for the game? I'm going to go through a 3-point bulletin that I think could massively increase the longevity of the game. It was more than 3 points. I lied. Well, I didn't so much lie as I didn't know how much I was going to rant. Let's be real. Everyone comes back for a new expansion, and some of the new expansions have been wonderful. Plays for maybe 100 hours, and I'm exaggerating. I play for 100 hours because I'm a nerd, but you guys probably do like 1, maybe 2 runs, get bored, and quit. So you guys are maybe go like 10 hours in an expansion at best and move on. Then it gets extremely bored because they realize that the AI will never be able to do anything, even remotely damaging to a player. The game likes longevity because eventually you realize that you're hitting an infirm patient with a sword while they're literally just laying there unable to fight back. It's funny a few times, but eventually the complete lack of resistance makes you bored. So I'm kind of repeating what I said earlier, but you get the idea, right? It's not fun to conquer through when there's no one to oppose you. When even the amazingly powerful Arabian Empire here would probably be half as strong as a player could be at this point. And that's the best the AI can do. The best and most challenging empire the AI could make would maybe potentially be half as damaging as a player. And not even, realistically speaking, not even half. It'd probably be like a third or even a fourth, if I'm going to be fair with you. So here's what I suggest. A hard mode. Shocking, I know. Not something that will fundamentally alter the game, but something that can be put on when you have a good strategy and want the AI to actually be able to stand and fight you to get some resistance. So when I say hard mode, what I mean is you toggle this on. It's not on all the time, but I think, and this is me, I've done a lot of modding for this game, I've done a lot of playing of this game, and I can just tell you through the things I've done that these would be things that would massively improve this game to stop having this happen. And to start having some actual interesting things, or to make this stop happening so often, right? Because, you know, I guess it is fair that sometimes, you know, some areas of the world fall apart, but it shouldn't be all of the world is falling apart all the time in a perpetual death spiral. AI gains 15 vassal opinion. The AI is freakishly incompetent at managing its vassals, and by 200 years into every campaign, every empire that hasn't ruled conqueror is going to be spiraling into infinite rebellions. It's frankly quite boring to have nothing left on the map worth attacking, which I think this proved correct. Any AI that did not roll the conqueror trait, we can see all these people didn't roll the conqueror trait. They didn't just happen to randomly get it assigned to them. Even Ajuran, which was a conqueror and is no longer a conqueror, we can see even Ajuran is now locked into multiple wars where they're getting attacked over and over. They're having independence wars, and they're going to quickly fall apart. And this is what I'm trying to explain to you guys, is that basically, if the AI had their vassals like them a little bit more, it would help to offset the fact that the majority of the time, the AI does not actually try to manage its vassals. It doesn't try to manage anybody under it. If we look into France right here, once again, we can see it has not assigned these vassals into duchies. Duchies would be way more manageable, and he would only need to improve relations with a few characters to do that. Now, I'm not expecting the AI to be able to do that. I'm not expecting there to be massive calculations for every empire with every AI trying to make duchies, trying to improve relations, trying to make everybody like them, right? But what I'm trying to say, if the AI just had it to where they could, everyone liked them a little bit more, then they could keep their realms a little bit stable. Obviously, empires would still collapse every so often, but for the most part, empires that were like the same culture, same religion, would be able to sit here and just not break apart, not mismanage themselves. And because AI would give you more money, and because AI would give you more levies, the more they like you, this would make the AI a little bit more difficult and a little bit more powerful. Top level AI lieges get 10% men-at-arms maintenance reduction and 10% men-at-arms cost reduction. If there's anything the Conqueror trait has shown, it's that when the AI can actually fill its men-at-arms roster, it becomes somewhat entertaining to attack. So let me explain this to you guys that don't maybe understand it. Let me go into France to show you. You have a limit as to how many men-at-arms you can afford. But you can see here that the French AI has not filled it. It's done a decent job, but it's definitely not filled it. It could have 2 more Conrite, it could have 3 more pikemen, it could have 2 more men-at-arms armored footmen, and it could have 7 more light infantry. It doesn't use accolades well or anything like that. It did actually get a Lancer accolade. So France, this is Lancer, Skirmisher, So it actually seems to be doing, I don't know if that's intended or if the French AI just randomly, monkeys on a typewriter, managed to get decent accolades. But you can see here, because the French AI has not filled out its Men-at-Arms roster, which it does actually have the money to do for the most part, shockingly. It could do this, and if it had less maintenance, you can see its maintenance has gone up substantially because now it needs to buy these Men-at-Arms, right? But if it could afford these Men-at-Arms a bit more, and it could buy them for a bit cheaper of a price, then all these empires around the map would have stronger armies, which A, would help them to oppose players more often, and B, would allow them to just manage their realm a bit more. If the top level liege, if the kings and the emperors could have these more Men-at-Arms, they would be able to deal with these rebellions, so you wouldn't have Palabia just fracturing into another civil war where it can't win because the AI is just so bad at its job that other AI that are also bad at their job manage to beat them. Here we can see the Kingdom of Lotharingia is doing the same thing, another civil war. If you actually look around the map, you can see how many of these AI are actually just collapsing into civil war all the time. It's just constant. It's just constant. Okay. Top level AI gains some sort of scheme resist. So to explain this to you guys, I don't play Crusader Kings, once again using the King of France. If I want to murder the King of East Francia, I can do that. Now, the problem with this is I'm just going to click auto invite agents. I'm not going to min-max him. I'm not going to do anything like that. I already can get up to a 60% chance to kill the King of Lotharingia with no involvement, no help whatsoever. In fact, if I manage this a little bit, we can see up to an 88% chance to kill him already. So that's pretty good. Now, I could hire some people for scheming. I could hire some people to reduce the scheme length. Effectively, if I support my scheme right here, I could get this scheme to kill the King of East Francia pretty consistently, pretty much every time without much effort. You can see the King of France here is not really good at intrigue. He's not even a character who should be able to murder other kings, and yet he can. Why can he? Because it's fun for the players to be able to murder so easily. It's fun. It's interesting. It's actually really lame. It's actually really lame and not very interesting. During the medieval ages, you couldn't just send assassins around the world murdering kings all the time. They generally had bodyguards and they were generally prepared. In addition, if some random dude just entered the court, they wouldn't let him just walk up to the king's food, put poison in it, and walk away. They wouldn't let some dude just kind of randomly walk around and talk to the cook so he could do it. They wouldn't have a dude just randomly walk into the king's bedchambers, with like a tape measure, going like, how far would I have to kick this guy for him to fall out the window? Like, no one would do that. If you actually look historically, basically no one was ever assassinated other than the Hashashin out of northern Persia. And they were prominent for it, and we know about them today, and we literally named the term assassin after them because they were like the most prominent and the best at it. But in game, everyone can do that better than you ever could historically, which is absurd to me. So that's basically this entire thing. Top level AI, kings, emperors, etc., need to be more resistant to schemes. It shouldn't be so easy to kidnap them. It shouldn't be so easy to kill them. The AI needs to actually be threatening. Now, to be clear, Paradox themselves has basically all but admit that schemes are way too easy. How do I know that? Because the Khan, Genghis Khan, this is actually his time period, he will come in under 100 years from this time. Genghis will actually come in. But Genghis Khan and also the Conqueror trait and also some historical characters have, you can see this right here, enemy scheme potential reduction by 40% and enemy scheme growth reduction by 3%. So not only would this Conqueror have a 40% reduction to my murder scheme, so even with these two in here, it would only be a 48% chance, but then the amount that I could grow this scheme would be much shorter. That would mean that because my scheme grows 4% per phase, it would actually be growing 0% per phase. A Conqueror character would be all but immune to my character because he's not good at intrigue. Conqueror characters can only be murdered by characters who are actually good and specialize in murder, which is how it should be. You shouldn't be able to be a steward and then you're just raking in infinite gold and you go, oh, murder that dude. And you just bribe a bunch of people and you murder him. Like, it's ridiculous. Okay. All AI roll +1 education level to a maximum of 4. The AI is just dumb. Literally. They have no education, which is true. If we look around the map, we can see that the AI is in nowhere good enough when a character gets older, right? So when a character goes from 15 to 16 years old, they roll up their education trait. So we can see here's a 15-year-old, she has no education trait. When she gets to be 16, depending on how skilled her guardian is, she will get an education trait. We can see here, though, amazingly, literally on the first character I clicked, this is a steward character who's trying to become a steward, being taught by an intrigue character. She will not, in fact, do very good at her job. She will do very poorly at her job. She'll roll an education level of about 2. It won't be good. In fact, if we click around the map over here, we can see education level 2, education level 2. This guy managed to probably RNG his way into 4. This guy's 4, so that's actually pretty good. 3, 3, 2, 3, 4 on the Byzantine Emperor. You rolled 3, 3, 4. That goes 4. 1, 2, 3. The Arabs are the only people who actually managed to get to 5. We got 3 on that king. 4 on that king was pretty good, but I think I clicked him earlier. 3, 2. Do you get my idea here? Do you get why I'm doing this? Top level lieges should basically always be getting their characters to 2 at a minimum, but realistically 3 to 4 should be more likely, because every player knows how to get their characters educated. Now sometimes you just get unlucky and you roll 2, but that's considered pretty unlucky. That's considered pretty unfortunate. The AI should effectively always have their characters realistically at a minimum of 2, but realistically they should be hovering to 3 to 4 more average. Once you're anyway decently through the game, a player, me, you, would know who gives the best education to your characters. You would know to hire a tutor, you would know to give them to a skill 4 character, or even a skill 5 character to teach them. You might even start your character at a skill 4 or skill 5 so you could teach your children really well. You would know that intelligent and genius characters teach even better. The AI doesn't know that. And here's the problem. There's a lot of AI on the map. Do you see how many independent realms are here? And do you see how many of these independent realms have characters in that realm? And do you see how many kids all these random characters have? We're talking, there are probably, if I had to guess, if I had to put a number on it, maybe 3, 4, 5,000 characters alive right now, all doing stuff. There would be no way for my computer to run if the AI was being hyper intelligent. Much like I don't think we can make the AI be smarter with vassals, because it would make my computer melt down and I'd not be able to play the game. I don't think we can make the AI really that much better with education. Now, some people have made mods that make them a little bit smarter, but even then, it's not wonderful. So I think the best way to make hard mode would be to say, screw it, just cheat them up. If you're playing in hard mode, just cheat up the AI's education a little bit. Okay, and for those of you guys who don't know what education does, it directly impacts your lifestyle experience. So we can see here, our character has these points in here. It directly impacts how much we get experience to put into these points. So the higher education trait, the just straight better you'll be. It also increases your base stats by 2 per. So an education level 4 character is significantly stronger than an education 2 character and will outperform them pretty massively for something that the AI does not seem to value. Another thing here is hide congenital traits until children are 16. So one thing players probably don't realize, oh man, it's hard to find because none of the AI is genius or anything like that. The AI is really bad at doing that. So if I find genius here, now genius, there's, only a few geniuses in the world left, huh? So the AI, and you the player would be able to understand that your son is a genius at 0 years old. So you can marry a genius to a genius and try to get them to be a super genius. Congenital, let me explain how it's in game terms. Certain traits are congenital and can be inherited by offspring. Through proper breeding, it is even possible to reinforce some traits. For example, if both characters are quick, there's a chance that their children will even get the better intelligent trait. So me, the player, I want to marry geniuses to geniuses so that my entire family could be geniuses. I want to marry Herculean super strong characters to beautiful characters to geniuses so I can have a super strong, beautiful genius man ruling my realm. The problem is right now it's a little bit too easy to do that, and in particular it's a little bit silly how easy it is. You can tell a child who's 0, 1, 2, 3 years old is already a genius. This allows you to manage your inheritance really well. This allows you to send your genius characters to college because you know they're the geniuses, so you know where to spend your money. And, you know, to be fair, it just allows you to do way too much with your characters that you really shouldn't even know how to do. You shouldn't know that your 4-year-old son is a genius. Maybe it can give you like an idea, like my 6-7-year-old son, maybe it can say they're smarter than average, right? But I shouldn't be able to know, like, this character is one of the smartest people in human history at 6 years old. I mean, come on, man. Now, look, you can say, well, actually, Mozart. Okay, shut up. Okay. Now let's go on to things I do think should change with the base game. Now, for those of you guys who don't understand, Crusader Kings is a game that is very customizable. You have an education. You have traits that you put points into that you specialize. You have your dynasty. You have buffs towards your dynasty that you get. You can choose what buffs to put it into. You're buffing your entire dynasty. You have your culture. You have cultural buffs that you choose and put points into. You have technology for your culture that you choose to do. There's your religion. Your religion is tenants and all these different things you can manage. Frankly, to be fair, it does make sense that some of this stuff would end up being really, really overpowered. However, some of these things are a bit too overpowered, and some of these things are overpowered to a degree that's kind of silly, and it gets to the point where it's like, how is this not nerfed yet? Because it's really, really obvious that some of this stuff is overpowered. So let's go through this. A very controversial, massive nerf to stewardship. I know it, you know it, we all know it. Stewardship is blatantly and by far the best stat in the game. Literally every time you want to make an easy mode character, you go stewardship. So let's just finally slash the stat because it's ridiculous how much better it is than everything else. I suggest reducing the +1 domain for stewardship to every 12 points from every 6 points. I will explain this to you guys in a second. I also suggest nerfing the +2 stewardship lifestyle perk to +1. In return, give every character +1 domain size. Okay, so let's talk about what this means then. So the King of France has a domain size of 6. He has a stewardship of 8, which gives him +1 stewardship because every 6 points gives him a stewardship. Can I find a good steward character? Bavaria has a stewardship of 12, which gives him +2 domain limit. King Bavarian stewardship. King Norman. Oh, Norman's get an extra one. Can I find someone with it? Okay, so here we have the King of Arabia has a stewardship of 21, and he has a domain limit of 10. Because the Mashriki culture has researched getting an extra domain size. He's an emperor with +4. He gets stewardship from his regent +2, and he himself gives himself +3. Now he has 10 domain. What does that mean? Domain. What does that mean? Let's go and talk about this for a second then. Me as a King of France, I can have 6 land. Now this is land that I directly own. These aren't vassals. Vassals pay me dividends, but I can earn, let's say, 17% of what a vassal makes. If they're not my of law land, if they're not my de jure land, then that gets halved even more. So if I have a vassal who I'm taxing highly, who's not even my lawful land, even on a high tax that'll piss him off, I might be only making 10% of what he makes. 10%. That means I would need 10 of him to make 1 of what I make from my of land. So you can see here my actual domain here. You can see the amount I'm taxing here. You can see the amount I'm buffing my men-at-arms, my army over here. Having more domain size is very, very, very powerful. The problem that I'm going to be getting into here, is that it's pretty obvious that the more stewardship you stack and the more your domain size, your character will just be blatantly richer. The King of Arabia is currently making +150 gold a month. The King of France, alternatively, trying to just stack up his men-at-arms and get a reasonable sized army, would be making 1.6. Now, if we go into Arabia, oh wow, he's making a lot on vassals. Oh, well, that's because the Arabians are administrative. Can I find a better stewardship character who's not administrative? So here, let's go look at this AI. This guy over here. This naked woman, which hopefully doesn't get me demonetized. You can see that she's only making 6.5 from vassals, but is making 10.8 from her own domain. And that's pretty consistent across the entire realm. You'll generally make about 20 to 30% of your money on vassals, whereas you'll make like 60 to 70, even sometimes 80% on your own domain. Stewardship characters will make like 90% of their money on their own domain. Stacking stewardship is blatantly the best stat. Now, this is fundamentally an RPG, for those of you guys who don't understand. You have your diplomacy score, your martial score, your stewardship score, your intrigue score, your language score, and your prowess score. Unfortunately, stewardship is just so much the best stat, and it's just not even close. It is just by far the best stat in the game. It's just not even close. And anyone who realizes that, anyone at all, knows that you just go stewardship. Every single character, every single time, you just run stewardship. There's no point to getting anything else ever. Stewardship is blatantly the best. End of discussion. Okay. That's really all I have to say about that one. Yeah, stewardship just needs to be nerfed. It needs to be nerfed hard. It just makes the game giga easy mode once you realize this. So this is a slashing of health values granted by Congenital. Congenital traits are things like Herculean, Fecund, etc. I go into the exact numbers here, but I'm going to try to keep it brief for you guys. Basically, I think Fecund needs to lose its life +5 entirely, and Herculean should go from 1.0 health down to 0.3. These would be substantial nerfs, but here's the problem, guys. Characters, historically speaking, did not live as long as they are in-game, or even close. And characters in-game, unlike historical characters, actually generally get stronger the older they get. They generally start getting more of their learning done. They generally get more of this done. They can start putting points into other trees as well. Characters that get older only get smarter. They don't get stronger unless you've maxed out kin, but they can't actually even get stronger as they get older, which is absurd when you actually stop to think about it. If there's anything we learned in America, it's that people who get older don't actually get smarter. They don't actually get stronger as time goes on. In fact, they seem to reach a cap. I would say, me being 34, I'd wager maybe 40 to 50 is probably 40 is like the cap of how smart you're gonna get. You know, realistically speaking, maybe you can continue to learn, read books, get more knowledgeable. But as far as like your ability to have your brain develop and make large leaps in your cognitive ability, you're pretty much, I feel like I'm going to cap out probably at 40, right? Like I'm already feeling it slow down pretty much here. Man, when I was in my teens to my 20s to my 30s, I felt like every 5 years I was like, damn, 5 years ago I was so dumb, you know? But in-game, characters that live longer just keep getting better. This means when you have characters who live longer and longer and longer, they just keep getting better and better and better and better. It gets, to be fair, pretty absurd. And a large amount of that is the congenital traits. Players know to find these congenital traits, breed them into their family line, which does sound absurd, by the way, that this game is based so much on breeding. Like, I don't know when this game became a eugenics simulator. Probably sometime around Crusader Kings 2. But I feel like it's really taken it a bit too far. And now it's kind of weird to the point where you're doing, like, a eugenics simulator on your family until you make the pure incest Ubermensch. And I don't know, dude. Characters should not be living 90 or 100 or even 110, 120. I've seen some characters live because you can stack so many traits on top of each other. That needs to end. It's absurd. It's really silly. And I don't really know what else to say about it. It's just absurd. It's really silly. It needs to end. Characters need to die. Because, I mean, to be fair, when you live on a long-lived character who's already extremely intelligent and loved by everyone, realistically, in a normal game, you'll live on a character like that maybe 10 to 20 years. By your third, fourth, fifth generation of super eugenics, a character like that, I mean, let's look at the Arabian Empire. This guy is a god king. He's 60, right? This guy is enormously powerful. He can keep this entire empire together. He is imperious. He is a religious icon. He is exalted among men. But now imagine this character could live for another 40 years because he was a player character who had proper eugenics. The Arabian Empire would get boring because you're just on a god king who can't fail. The AI can't oppose him. You would just run the game. There'd be nothing to do anymore. You'd get bored. And that's a big problem. It's funny a few times to do the whole eugenics, infinite life characters, but eventually you realize it makes your game really boring because you're never playing new characters or doing anything. So I need to do a complete relook at the legacy trees. Okay, so this is the Dynasty buffs, and the problem with the Dynasty buffs right now is there's a couple which are just blatantly better than others. Now, because the AI will just randomly choose them, you can see here on the Abbasids, they happen to randomly choose some of the... Oh wait, is this the Abbasids? No, these are Carlings. The Carlings managed to actually randomly choose some of the best ones. They completed Blood, which is great. Blood does actually go pretty good with Kin, and then that actually seems to do pretty good with the Heroic Bloodline, if they could actually get it done, at any rate. And then they're going into Law after that. Law is not so great, but it does have a domain limit at the end, which can be okay. But at any rate, do you guys get my point here? Do you guys get what I'm trying to say here? It's kind of a little bit of a problem, at least in my opinion. It's kind of a little bit of a problem that there's a lot of these legacies which are just straight bad. I mean, let's look at Blood, for example. Let's look at the Blood trait. This is like the best one in the game. You have a 30% chance of inheriting congenital traits, 30% chance of just making new ones, 30% chance of reinforcing ones, 30% chance reduction on inheriting bad ones, 30% chance reduction of new ones appearing out of nowhere. You can select a congenital trait that'll just appear, and then you get 5 years more life expectancy. Blood is blatantly and by far the best. Now let's compare this to activities. Grand weddings are half off. Great. An activity I do a couple times a life is half off. Who cares? I get more pilgrim and traveler trait experience. Cool. Pilgrimages are 50% cheaper. Cool. The +2 learning per holy site could be good. I'll grant you that. Here we have a decent trait that gives you 25% more vassal tax contribution after you do a taxation tour. I mean, does this sound as good as Blood? No, obviously not. Even if you don't play the game, you're probably thinking this doesn't sound as good. Ooh, here we have another one. I can get Eager Reveler and Hunter trait experience gain. Ooh. So let's talk for a second about why the congenital traits are so good. Let me explain this to you guys who might not play the game. Genius gives you 5 diplomacy, 5 martial, 5 stewardship, 5 intrigue, 5 learning, and 30% more monthly lifestyle experience. It's crazy. And with the Blood legacy maxed out, you'll basically always have genius. Your entire family will be geniuses. Incredible, outstanding, amazing. Now let's compare that to activities. See, here's the thing, okay? Let's compare 5 in every stat and 30% experience towards your things to, I don't know, Eager Reveler trait experience gain. A maxed out Eager Reveler gives you 3 diplomacy and 3 intrigue. Now here's the thing. You can max out Eager Reveler without even being in the activity tree. A genius character can max out Eager Reveler, and he can actually do it kind of easily by just attending every feast. It's really not that hard to do. A maxed out Hunter character can get 2 learning and 3 prowess and a small health boost. Here you can see here in Falconer that you could get, what is that? 3 stewardship and 2 learning. Woo! It's... I'm gonna be real with you fellas. Hunter's not really good. It's not where it's at. And getting 50% more here is nowhere even close in comparison to everyone is now a genius. Do you get the problem? Because the AI randomly flips through their legacies, they don't seem to prefer some. Some families seem to prefer some, but random families won't really go anywhere. So unless you're a default family that is hand-picked to get into a good legacy, don't pick a good one. In my opinion, they need to go through these legacy trees and ensure that each legacy does something very impactful that is unique and powerful. Now, for those of you who might say, okay, but once you play a game for a long time, won't your characters become overpowered because you've gotten every legacy? Well, yeah, of course, but who really plays that long? Who actually plays long enough to get to the point where you've got like 5 legacy trees maxed? I'm sure some characters, some players min-max it and they try really hard to do that. Sure, your average player maybe maxes 2, 3 at most before they get bored of a game and quit. Making some of the random ones more powerful so that, you know, when an AI decides to go when an AI decides to go erudition, they don't get counselor skill impact on counselor tasks plus 10%. That's so completely, utterly insignificant. I don't even know what to say. But what I'm trying to say here is that When an AI would happen to go erudition, they could be stronger, which would A, open up diversity and make the game more fun to play, and B, help the AI out that's doing that. Next thing is a buffing of the laughable traditions that sack some cultures with ridiculous nerfs, and a nerfing of the top 3 traditions that just trivialize warfare. So in game right now, as I mentioned earlier, each culture has a tradition. We can see here the Ogas, this is the Turkey culture, has warrior culture. This basically renders this culture unplayable, and I do not know why it nerfs them so hard. It has negative 25% cultural fascination growth. Now, fascination is how quickly you get a new technology. We can see here that the Turks are getting hereditary rule at a 26% chance, a base chance of 5%, and a fascination of 21%. That would be 36%, but it's minus 15%. So instead of having a 41% chance, they have a 26% chance. They almost get their technology nerfed down to half, which is insane. That's ridiculous. No one can play this culture because this tradition just nerfs them into the ground. And it is on a few different cultures. I think it's on the Cumans. Yep, it's on the Cumans. It's on the Turks. If you play the 1066 start date, the Seljuk Empire is ran by Turks who can't get technology, so they fall off and die. And the Great Cumanian Empire is also run by, you guessed it, Cumans who can't get technology, then fall off and die. It's ridiculous. Now let me show you guys something. Have you noticed Bohemian isn't Bohemian? It's actually Bohemisch. That's right, it's because the Bavarians conquered Bohemia, merged with Bohemia. The Bavarian and Czech culture merged, and they became the Bohemisch people. Why is that? How did they manage to do that? We can see here in Hungary, this is not actually run by the Hungarians. It's ran by the Sloveno-Bavarians. That's right, the Bavarians conquered them too, merged with Slovian culture, and now the Slovian people are merged with Bavarian and running Hungary. How did they manage to do that? We can see down here, you guessed it, Croatia isn't ran by the Croatians. It's run by the Croato-Bavarians. Let me ask you a question. Bavarian culture is so weak. It used to be so weak at any rate. Why is it doing so good now? How is the AI with Bavarian culture conquering like everyone and doing so amazing? Because when Paradox decided to rebalance traditions, they decided stand and fight should give +2 levy toughness, +8 defender advantage, +4 toughness to all men-at-arms, +4 toughness to heavy infantry, +6 toughness to spearmen, and +20 toughness to heavy cavalry. What's the problem with this, you might be asking? Each point of advantage gives you 10% more damage. Whenever the Bavarians are attacked, or whenever they defend one of their holdings, they do, on average, 80% more damage. Their men-at-arms are also getting ludicrously buffed. If we tag in here real quick, let me show you the Bavarian pikemen. The Bavarian pikemen currently have a toughness of 53 because it's 24 plus 4 plus 6 multiplied by the holding of 55%. That's 53 toughness. If I compare this to another culture with pikemen, so let's look at the Italian, their pikemen have a toughness of 42. Bavarian pikemen can literally take 25% more damage before they die simply because they're Bavarian. Now, while you might say, oh, but that's cool, they're shut up. Not only does it make their levies significantly stronger, not only does it make their heavy infantry stronger, their spearmen stronger, their heavy cavalry stronger, all men-at-arms they get are stronger, but the thing is, the defender advantage 8 is insanity. Now look, if this, all it did was make your spearmen on average like 20 to 30% tougher, that would be one thing. That'd be a good cultural tradition, but it wouldn't be game breaking. But with defender advantage 8, this means every time the Bavarian army happens to catch an enemy attacking them, or happens to defend one of their holdings that is being sieged, they do so much more damage, they completely stack wipe the enemy and eradicate them. So the Bavarian people have managed to conquer all their surroundings and culturally enrich them because they're just that strong. You might be looking at East Francia. Well, why did the Saxons do so good? Why are the Saxons so... You guessed it. You know exactly what happened. They also have stand and fight. Yes, that means the only two people in this region who've been doing really good have stand and fight. Because even the AI with stand and fight just does that good. Because it is actually just that good. Now, I'm not going to go through every tradition, but if you played this game long enough, you know which traditions are really bad and which traditions are really good. All I'm asking, player to developer, is could we maybe tone down these giga-broken traditions? I'm not saying, like, I have a personal mod for multiplayer in which all I've done to stand and fight, all I've done to it is remove the 8 defender advantage. Because it's absurd. It's just crazy broken. So what do you get? You get stronger levies, you get much stronger men-at-arms, but you take 40% more fatal casualties. You don't often take fatal casualties because your units are so tough anyway, but it's a good drawback with huge advantages. Your units are much tougher, but they tend to die more often. It's a drawback, it's a strength, it's a powerful tradition still, but it doesn't just break the game. In the game right now, it breaks the game. 8 advantage means anyone with stand and fight, you can't attack them because they'll just instantly murder your entire family line. If you try to attack a Bavarian culture, a Saxon culture, by the way, you want to know why the Normans are doing so good? You'd never believe what cultural tradition they have. You'd never believe it. You'd never believe it. It's crazy, right? It's so weird how the 3 cultures that have it are all dominant over Europe, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. They need to rebalance the weak ethos. So let me explain this one. Each culture in the game, this game is very complicated, I assure you, has an ethos. This is a general thing. There's only, I think, 5 of them or 6 of them maybe in the game, and each culture has one of their own. Bellicose makes your characters slightly better at fighting, reduces your men-at-arms recruitment cost, and reduces their maintenance. Ceremonious gives you prestige, a little bit of title creation, and house opinion. Oh, that's not very good. Communal gives you same culture, mercenary, higher cost, and close family opinion, a little bit of building construction cost, construction time. Spiritual, on my poor Bavarians here, gives you, and for those of you guys who don't play this game, this is worthless. 10% piety, 15% controlled growth, 20% faith creation and reformation cost, which doesn't do anything, and that's it. For those of you guys who do play the game, boy, Stoic is really good with that 5 defender advantage. That's 50% more damage anytime you're defending. Even in my mod, which I nerf advantage to half, that's 25% more damage when you're defending. That's a lot of damage. Spiritual basically does nothing. This means you, the player, when you're looking through the cultures, which one are you going to pick? Bavarian? Well, of course not. You're going to pick Saxon. You're going to pick Saxon because it is Stoic. Or you're going to pick Norman because it is Bellicose. Are you going to pick Anglo-Cornish? No, because communal gives you building construction time and cost, but only cost 5%. But if we look over here at the Greeks, they have bureaucratic, which gives you lifestyle experience, cultural fascination, and development growth, which is a little bit better. A tiny little bit better. If you want to go tall, if you want to build up your empire, you could go bureaucratic, which is infinitely better, or you could go communal, which is, yeah, it's okay. You know, I'm not saying communal's bad. I'm just saying bureaucratic's better. It's fine. But some of these, like spiritual, and what's the other one? Egalitarian. Egalitarian is just, what the hell is going on with this thing? So I'm going to explain why egalitarian is useless, okay? Cultural acceptance gain 35% is decent. Different culture opinion, different faith opinion, vassal limit. It's like, what, man? And then whichever AI has this. Have you noticed, looking around the map, by the way, have you noticed that these cultures, have you noticed that the cultures which have the really bad traits tend to just not do well because they just have really bad traits? So the problem is I'm just gonna move on. They just need to have weak ethos. And then lastly, just nerf incest. I'm not gonna go into it, but let's just say there's a really overpowered strategy in this game that's been overpowered since the start, as I talked about with the eugenics problem. All you do is you just marry your family off to your family, and you just keep marrying them into each other forever and ever. And haha, funny Crusader Kings meme, but actually, unironically, especially with blood, it's like really overpowered because blood just makes it really, really strong. and you just marry your family again and again and again until somehow enough incest eventually becomes genius, beautiful, really strong heirs that live until 110. Not inbred morons. No, that would be apparently unrealistic. No, if you keep marrying your sister enough times, you get super strong Ubermensch. Who knew? I didn't know. Okay. Lastly, double the upkeep of the Varasian Guard. They recently added a new unit to the Byzantine Empire. They're doing bad here. The problem is, if you, the player, understand to spam Varasian Guard, you, the player, will understand how overpowered it is, and you will have very easy mode. For some reason, the Varasian Guard is laughably undercost, and doesn't really make sense how undercost it is. It just needs to be nerfed. It's really dumb. They really need to nerf it. The Byzantine Empire should be hard. It shouldn't be easy. Okay. Now, lastly, make landless characters no longer steal money from landed characters. So, I talked about landless characters at some point. I'm sure I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Landless characters are these dudes who just wander around the map. They were just added in this expansion. They're really fun to play. What's the problem with them? They steal money from the landed characters by doing chores for them. The chores, the tasks, the missions, the quests, whatever you want to call it, they don't really help the land at all, but they take the money. The amount of help they give the land is in absolutely no way possibly worth the amount of money they're taking. The problem here is they continuously run around and steal all the money from the landed characters. The landed characters are desperately trying to churn out cash, and the landless characters are stealing all their money over and over and over again. This means your vassals will always be really weak because they're desperately trying to make any cash. We can see here, here we are in 1101, and the AI has not managed to upgrade its castles. They haven't even invented battlements, which is crazy. What culture has invented battlements? I can actually check that. So here we have the Normans have invented battlements. Did you? Nope. Did you? Nope. Paris is still a tier 1 castle. Paris, capital of Western Europe, is actually still a tier 1 castle. They have never managed to get enough money together to upgrade it. Why have they not? Because they probably... You, the player, don't have to pay landless characters, but the AI does. That is a huge bonus to you, because the AI is getting beat down by these landless characters who are like, hey, boss, I did that task for you, and the AI is like, oh, sure, here, just take my money. The landless characters did not really do anything to help them. The few things that, even if they do have tasks that help the land, it's not worth the 50, 60, 70 gold they're ripping out of the AI, right? And then they just do it again and again and again. And the AI is basically powerless. They can't do anything to stop them. The landless characters are just beating the crap out of the AI, stealing all their money, and just rendering them unplayable. And it's really bad for game health. And I'm really hoping... this is at the end of the video, so don't get me wrong. If on Monday they said they were going to do a patch, if on Monday they address this, it'll be really good. So I would really like that. But as of right now, landless characters are basically more like robber barons that run around just generally making all the landed AI really poor and incapable of doing anything. And they really need to address it, because here's the thing. It's not that there's just one running around doing it. It's that there's like 30 landless characters running around taking any money that any of the AI manages to get together. The King of France is like, time for me to save up my money and build a castle. And all the landless characters sprint up and they're like, hey man, I'll cut your lawn for 500 gold. And the French king is like, well, I have no choice. I guess I have to give you that gold. And then he has no gold. But you, the player, don't actually have to do that, which is absurd to me. It's just silly. So, let me specify something for those of you guys who haven't played this game. This game has a lot of scaling in it. There's a lot of things you can do. You can put these artifacts in your court, which give you permanent buffs. Your court has these artifacts. It has these things you can put on the wall and display, and these things will permanently buff you so long as they're here. They'll give you Let's see. This one's reducing my mercenary hire cost. A lot of the AI's ones are pretty bad. So, actually, are any of these good? Okay, so here we got one. This gives him more intrigue lifestyle experience. Let's see. This one gives him more levy contribution from his vassals. Most of his are bad. They're just actually really bad, weirdly enough. We also have an inventory. We can see his items are also really bad. Amazing. So this really bad bow, though, makes his knight slightly stronger, makes the enemy take more casualties, and it gives him a little bit more prowess. What I'm trying to say here is you, the player, can slowly collect these court artifacts. You can slowly collect these weapons, armor, crown, regalia for your character. You can slowly collect these legacies for your dynasty to buff up your dynasty. You can slowly buff your culture up, give them more technology, give them more traditions to strengthen them and make them more powerful. But there's no point to it. And that's the current problem with the game. The problem with Crusader Kings 3 right now, fundamentally, is that it would be so fun to play a game where you have to outscale the AI. It'd be so fun to play a game where you have to play for the long game, like Total War, like even Civilization, even games like Stellaris can be like this. It would be fun to play games where you use your intelligence as a player to outscale the AI and power fantasy, and eventually you can conquer Europe when you have your legendary sword and you've got your legendary throne room full of King Arthur's artifacts and all that. That would be really cool. The problem is you don't need any of that. Any character you roll on day one is already strong enough generally to win the game, to beat everyone in the game and conquer them. There are a few AI, very few, who could oppose you, and that's about it. At any given start date, there'll maybe be 2 AI that you can't kill. And if you start with a landless character, landless characters are so overpowered right now, I'm really hoping they nerf them, that you can defeat any empire within 1 lifetime on any landless character. Which is boring. Shouldn't the goal of a campaign be to slowly start from the bottom and eventually defeat the Byzantines, or eventually defeat the Caliphate, or eventually defeat the King of France? That should be the goal. That should be your end goal. That should be what you work for 5, 6, 7 hours of a campaign where you're managing your family and your vassals and you're like, I'm doing it. I'm really doing it. But the problem is, you don't have to do that. And you don't need to do that because the AI is bad. And the AI is so bad that it will never actually pose any reasonable challenge. And the game is boring. And learning the game is boring. And getting good at the game is boring. And it makes it worse for you to try to learn this game. And this is just an entire video. This is my plea. Please, could we actually make this game more difficult? Because I actually do think there's a lot of cool mechanics in this game. There's a lot of cool things you can do. Like, if I'm playing the King of France, or if I'm playing the King, I guess I'm playing Italy right now, I actually do have these vassals. And who am I? Am I the king? Oh no, I'm the king of Bavaria. If I look into my realm, I actually do have these vassals over here. And I could go to the Duke of Salzburg, right? And I could give him a vassal directive to do different tasks. And I could apparently not change his contract because I'm not allowed to for some reason. I could change this guy's contract and I could turn him into a march. And by turning him into a march, he pays half taxes, but his army gold maintenance is significantly reduced. He gets controlled territory defender advantage. He gets levy size reinforcement. He's very powerful as a march. I could turn on coinage rights, succession rights. I could force him to revoke titles, war declaration, fortification rights. I could turn him on scutage. I could turn him on a palatinate. I could raise his taxes, lower his levies. I could keep him happy. I could use hooks. I could do all this stuff. I could do this to every single vassal. I could manage all this. I could accrue these different court artifacts. I could make myself a legendary weapon. I could go on an adventure. I could go on a crusade. I could manage all, but there's no reason to, because nothing will ever hit you back. Nothing in this game ever hits you back. You, the player, never get hit by anything. Nothing ever hits you hard enough that you actually feel, dang, maybe if I manage my realm better. Dang, maybe if I do better. Dang, maybe if I scale more. No, but nothing will ever hit you back. Ever. It's boring, is what I'm trying to say here. It's frankly, it's boring at this point. And I really hope that the developers listen at some point. Look, all we need is a sort of hard mode. Give me a hard mode. That's all I want. I just want a little bit of a hard mode. You added the Conqueror into the game. The Conqueror trait is good. It makes things fun. But look how many people want a hard mode. Look how many people want you to nerf the really overpowered things that ruin the game. Look at how many people want you to make the game more fun. Most people, in fact. 329,000 people saw this post, and 90% of them upvoted it. That says something. So, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to leave a comment down below for the algorithm and just generally your thoughts. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.